Hey, Eloise Ansell here. Welcome. Hello. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. This week, I want to talk a bit about intuition and how we can kind of talk about our intuition and our emotions. Hey, everybody. I'm Eloise. I'm an intuitive healer based in the UK, and welcome. Today, I wanted to talk about intuition, and the topic that pinged up was emotions. So, we're going to explore this a little bit. Um, when you're trying to access your intuition, if you're in a very emotional state, it is going to be very difficult. So, when we've got a lot of trauma and drama going on, and we're like, and we're in our heads a lot, we can't always see the answer. I've had this in my current life at the moment. I'm trying to make a decision, and every time I sit to be with my intuition on it, I find myself in my head thinking and being logical about it and trying to work out what the best option should be. Um, Meanwhile, my intuition's like, just just go for it. And then I'm trying to come up with all the logic and the justifying and the it's really funny. And it's like I have no idea why this option would be the best one, but that's what I'm being told. So it's interesting. And the thing is, I got really emotional about it yesterday. I rang my sister to have a chat about it and just to bend someone's ear. And then who's not very love my sister, but she's not wired the same way as me. We're wired quite differently. So she's a really good person sometimes to talk things through with. And I just started crying and she's like, why are you crying? I don't understand what's going on here. And I'm like, oh welling up thinking about it. And there was just so much emotion there. And this, it you know, it's back to that energy of like, is this the right thing or is it the wrong thing? And it's like, it's neither of those things. It's just an option, and we get so caught up about having to get it right all the time and that it has to be the right thing. And in finding a relationship or finding a new home, it's like, well, there might be something better out there, and we start getting into all this mess. And it's like, okay, I was going to say marriage isn't even for life now. So you can change your mind. You can move again. You can, but with these big decisions, we're quite often caught up in what's right long term, what makes sense. All these energies come up and loads of emotion comes with it. So it can be we're really emotional just anyway, and then we're trying to kind of walk through treacle to make sense of the intuition in that moment. Or we can be in a space where, like, the actual kind of whatever we're trying to choose or think about is bringing up the emotion, and then we can't see clearly what we're doing. And it's that trying to look at the long term and get it right for the long term, and we have no idea what's going to happen in in the next 5 minutes, hardly knowing the next 5 months or 5 years. So our brain tells us that whatever our next choice is, we're stuck with for life, but that's never really the case. There's always a different option, there's always something else. So um, it's very difficult for our intuition to tell us what to do or guide us or get that intuition on, would this be good for me or not, when we're clouded in all of this emotion. So yesterday I was like, okay, I can't see clearly at all. Let's sleep on it, because that normally sleep will kind of clear a lot out. So I went to bed early and I had a nice hot bath and went to bed early and slept like a baby. And then I woke up today and went, oh yeah, that that place, I need to make a choice on that. And it was easier for me to sit down today and see what felt good and tune into my intuition today around it. And because the emotion wasn't there, like I got over it, whatever I was crying about cleared, and I could see really clearly. So sometimes when we're trying to access the intuition, we might not notice that we've got a lot on our plate, that we're overwhelmed, that we're just in our heads. And when we're in our heads, we can't listen to the intuition, which is more in the body than in our brains. So if you find yourself getting into that, I'm thinking, we need to do something. It could be sleep in order to come back to the body and ask the body, hey, would this be good for me at this moment? Not for the next 100 years, not for the next like 50 years or 50 months. Would it be good for me next, or for the next, what will contribute to me most? I mean, and also there's something else here that, like, sometimes we're looking at that decision and we're like, well, I have to keep with it for 50 years. That's the energy we put behind it. And what we can do is look at that choice as being like the next step. But will that contribute to me and my family and everyone else in 50 years? That's got a different energy to it because you're looking at that thing. You might, if it's like looking for a home, you might stay in that place for 5 years, 10 years, who knows? But if we like make that choice expecting ourselves to stay there for 50 years, chances are, quite slim. But if we look at that decision and go, okay, what will that create for me in 50 years' time? That's different. And yeah, it's a lot more ease sometimes to make those decisions. So we need to get out of the head, we need to come into the body and just be present and ask, would this be good for me? And see how you feel. When I'm trying to make a decision, it's quite often like, well, if this thing option got taken away from me and I couldn't do that thing, how would I feel? And it's like sometimes I'm like, I wouldn't be that upset. And I'm like, well, great, then, I could still choose to say yes to it, but I know that, I'll be okay if I don't. So, yeah, making decisions is tough, but using the intuition and using the body to make the decision can be ease. But we need to be asking the right questions. So our emotions can be guidelines to us sometimes. Like yesterday, I was getting really upset. I was like, okay, why am I crying? Like, why is my body mind trying to tell me? Like, it's just like I was asking questions about my reaction to what was going on. And our emotions sometimes really show us how we're feeling. Well, they are literally showing us how we're feeling. But our emotions and our feelings quite often aren't ours anyway, they're someone else's. And they're quite often just like a reaction that's programmed within us. It's got nothing to do sometimes with what we're actually feeling or thinking. It's how we're programmed to react to life, if that makes sense. And some of those programs are so deep that we think it's us. So do I follow my feelings and emotions as a guideline? No. I ask questions about what it's about. I'm trying to tell myself, well, what's coming up? But I find a way of getting past or around the emotions, clearing them so that I can just be present. And I have lots of tools for clearing my emotions. Clearing all of that and then asking from there, will this contribute to me? Will this be a good thing for me long term? Not that long term, but this next step be good for me long term? These are the kind of questions that I'm asking of my body and seeing what feels light, seeing what feels shiny. I quite often, when I make decisions, I kind of visualize. If I'm trying to have two options, I visualize them, and quite often one will come in kind of like a bit more oppressive in some way, and then another will be a bit more sparkly, and I'm like, okay, the sparkly one, for me. It's always the one to go for. So yeah. So we can all have different ways of accessing our intuition. We can have different ways of interacting with it. But when we're being there, what state are we coming to that session with our intuition with? If we're coming from a really emotional, heady place, we're not going to get clear guidance. We're not going to get clear insights. We need to clear that, maybe sleep on it, go for a walk, do something to change our state, and then come to it and go, okay, would this be good and contribute to me? And you could always ask for a sign from the universe. So sometimes I ask to see something if it would be a good if it would be a good thing for me when I'm trying to make a decision. I'm like, okay, universe, show me a whatever. I try not to say it too loudly in case my phone hears and then starts showing me that thing, because then I could take it as a yes, and actually it's just algorithms. So state it out loud, but quietly, away from your phone. Just see what happens. They're funny things we have to do. I might have shared this before, but the other week I did a session, and it was a group session in the Freedom Hub, and we were clearing something about barnacles, and it was a really interesting session. But that was the nearest thing that I could do, like kind of give everyone a visual of what was going on. And then everybody was getting loads of videos on Facebook and stuff pinging up about barnacles and whales. And I was like, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing." I'm like, "It's just the algorithm." It's just like, they'd obviously listened to their session without their headphones in. Oh, it's too fun. So yeah, ask for a sign, but do it quietly, and then see what shows up. So yeah, our feelings, our emotions, sometimes they give us insights and they give us awarenesses, but a lot of the time, push them to the side and see how your body feels. Tune into your intuition from a place of ease, because you'll get more awareness. You'll be more present to hear and see what's going on and feel into it with your intuition, not with your emotions and headiness and thinking. It's going to give you a lot more awareness. And if you have tools for structuring your intuition and getting around it, that gives you more freedom as well from all of that emotional stuff. So use that. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. If you've got any questions, put them below, and I will catch up with you next week. Take care. Bye.